Okay, we recording? Yes, we are. Do not disturb is on. Great. What's up, everybody? Marhan13 here. Obviously, we already explained what was happening. Reboot everything last video. So, time for the reboot of What If Deku was Sonic series. Or, aka Game Sonic. Let's just get into this. Alright, so, we start our story off basically the same way we start off any My Hero story. Yada yada, people born with superpowers, quirks, supervillains, superheroes, stuff like that. Now then, things basically go about as canon as they can be until Zuko's 4. Where he's told he's quirkless, but when Katsuki does start trying anything, his older sister Maria, basically she steps in and basically keeps the kids from... Basically, she keeps Katsuki more in check. And basically, that's how things are for a while. For about a month or two, Maria just kind of being more so the one to watch the two. No neglect from parents or anything, but Inko's starting to go out more. Going out, meeting people, stuff like that. So, Zuko and Katsuki spend a lot more time together here, along with Maria, watching them. Now then, one day while just walking around the forest, Maria watching the two boys, making sure they don't do anything, Zuko ends up tripping on something. When he looks down, he sees a green emerald, with him picking it up and going to show Maria and Katsuki. With them getting a varying response. Katsuki thinks it's cool, while Maria wonders why it's glowing. And the moment Katsuki touches it, basically is the moment where Zuko then wishes that maybe it's something lucky, and then says that maybe it can make him a hero. With this being said, the emerald starts immediately glowing green, before shooting out a beam of light into the sky, freaking the two out, basically enveloping, with this also happening, a lot of other places, i.e., up at the Space Colony Arc. We see, up in space, we see something, a purple one, shoot down on the planet, along with multiple other places of the world where multiple lights just run through Earth. When they all shoot up and meet in the sky, this sends over a veil across the entire planet. Basically a multicolored energy veil across the entire planet. And then when it's done, everything goes back to normal. It's a major occurrence, but more on for Zuko and Katsuki. Now then, Zuko and Katsuki then open their eyes, with Maria being the first to see that there's something different and wrong about the boys now. Zuko's hair is bleeding into blue at the back ends, along with him having blue markings under his eyes. Same with Katsuki, but now Katsuki's hair is more so has red strands in it, and has red marks under his own eyes. Now then, Maria doesn't know what's going on, but she almost immediately tells the boys to come on, we have to go home. Basically freaking out, trying to run to Inko and Mitsuki. Now, with this, Zuko ends up taking the emerald, and he's getting ready to run like Maria told him to, since she's kind of holding onto their hands, while basically speed walking. Now then, Zuko decides that he wants to run. And when he takes the first step, this ends up making him speed in front of them, nearly hitting a tree and falling face first into the ground. With Maria just kind of shockingly letting go of Katsuki's hand and looking at Zuko. Now then, Katsuki is the first one to make a move here as he tries to go into Zuko, wondering what's happened, only to have the same varying effect, and hitting face into the ground. Now then, Maria is currently freaking out, but the best she can do is just grab both of them and basically just run. Now then, she runs to Inko and Mitsuki, and they take the boys to the hospital. With this being said, this is when they also see on the news that this is a worldwide event, along with the fact that it shows that people have been getting powers from this somehow. Now then, even Mitsuki and Iko are kind of weirded out about this, along with the fact that the doctors run tests on them to show that the boys have some type of strange energy running through their bodies now. This energy has given them these extra powers. It's not a quirk, absolutely not, but something stronger. From what they can infer is that Zuko and Katsuki both gain the ability of super speed. And yet, from basically just testing a little bit of how far they can run, or how fast, since I would assume that they have things like that for super speed quirks. Just to give out a base estimate of how fast they can run at the start. Now then, when they do this, they can see that Zuko and Katsuki are already faster than most pro hero. They already have a speed that makes them faster than most pro heroes already. Which, this is a scientific breakthrough. After this, weeks pass of basically the scientists across the entire world basically going over this. Now then, if you're wondering about the Chaos Emerald, the one that the boys found stays with them, but all of the other ones had disappeared. No one can find them except for the ones that the boys had. Basically, from tests and experimentations, they also eventually bring in a world-renowned scientist, Dr. Gerald Bakugo? Actually, no, Dr. Gerald Robotnik. A man, old and, an aging man with gray hair, with him basically dubbing out he already knew about this, as he had figured this out years ago. He calls them Chaos Emeralds. From manuscripts he's found of ancient people, that they can transform life into power. And basically, they can also grant wishes. I'm telling them that Azuko and Katsuki inadvertently gave multiple people around the world powers. Now, with this being said, Gerald decides it's finally time he visit his daughter again. So he takes the Green Chaos Emerald, heads down to, Japan, and makes a stop at the Bakugo residence. There we go. And this leads to a talk with Mitsuki, kind of getting ready to throw something at him. Now, this is the first time Maria and Katsuki have met their grandpa. They didn't even know they had a grandpa from their mom. But Maria kind of just holds Katsuki, covers his ears as Mitsuki screams about what a terrible father he was. She basically screamed at him that he was a terrible father, and her brother basically raised him more than her. With her eventually delving into her mother, just saying that after mom passed, it's like he stopped caring. He turned into basically a whore. So yeah, basically while the yelling match of Gerald getting screamed at is going on, Maria just decides to cover Katsuki's ears and not let him hear this. But she gets to hear front row seat of kind of how horrible of a father her grandfather was. After Mitsuki's... And Gerald doesn't really stop her. He just lets her get out of her emotions. She reminds him of her mother a lot. And after she's done yelling, Gerald starts explaining what's basically going on. Explaining what's happened to Katsuki now. And then he also asks her another thing, Maria's birth records. With him looking at her saying that it's related to how her mother passed. As basically, then Maria has to ask a question. Why? With Mitsuki explaining that this is basically, her mom passed from an illness that no one could have solved. Hell, no one really knew. They called it NIDS. And basically, it came from her mom's side of her family, and luckily she didn't get it, but she actually doesn't know about Maria. Now then, after this, Gerald says goodbyes to his grandchildren, telling Mitsuki that he'll be over more to see them, for walking out along with having Maria's birth records. He then goes back to the space colony arc while Mitsuki and Furlimer basically tells Inko everything she knows. Now then, with this being said, Inko has also started dating again. Good for her. She met a man called Toshinori Yagi. They're great right now. Now then, Inko, after hearing all this, and also seeing how kind of difficult it is to handle Izuku now. He's way faster than most pro heroes with super speed quirks. And he has to get the energy out somehow. Now then, Inko does actually make a complaint to the Hero Commission, asking if she can do something about this. You know, just asking, hey, my son, you know, yada yada. Now then, unbeknownst to Inko, Toshinori decides to tell him something else. And so, Japan admits this. Basically letting the kids that have active powers that they get from what they're starting to call chaos powers. Basically, children that ended up having chaos powers are legally allowed to use them outside of public as long as there's not any violence going on around them. As these aren't quirks, and even though they should make laws for it, which they are, they can't really stop these kids from doing it. And basically to stop trouble from the long run, so I have to let them just do what they want with these, as long as it doesn't count hero work for vigilantism. You know, so basically go about day to day, kind of like how Kokichi was using it. But yeah, besides that, this leads to Izuku and Katsuki actually being able to test their legs out and run. The boys are fast, really fast. But during this time, Inko also decides to start a group. Basically, she starts reaching out online, seeing if any other parents in Japan have had children who have gone through this. And since Inko and Mitsuki know the most about it, thanks from any information they get from Gerald, this leads to basically them making a group and then deciding to finally meet up with their kids. Now, Maria's also here, since basically Mitsuki and Marsu are also there, and Mitsuki just kind of wants to make sure nothing is wrong with Maria, since even though Maria doesn't say anything, Maria kind of looks a little bit more pale. Mitsuki's praying and hoping that it isn't what she thinks it is. And until then, she kind of just has to keep her close. And so Maria is here. Now then, this leads to multiple children meeting up. And basically the parents introduce themselves and basically ask the kids to introduce themselves. Now then, during these, I'd say 2 years have passed since the whole first chaos incident, where Izuku has become a lot more outgoing and more adventure-seeking from his speed, with Izuku proudly announcing himself as Izuku Midoriya and telling them all to meet him, with Katsuki doing the same. Now then, this also leads into the introduction of other people with chaos powers, starting with Ochako Uraraka, with her gaining basically, from what everyone can tell, unlimited strength. From whatever can tell, basically ultra strength. She's strong, really strong. Along with her float quirk. Uraraka's also really, really strong. And she's also gained the ability to summon out a hammer and also turn invisible. So, yeah, Amy can do that in 06. So, okay, well, she can slightly turn invisible. It's still a work in progress, and she doesn't know everything she can do. Along with the fact that, yeah, now that for Ochako, her eyes have turned into a striking green, along with her hair being pink near the end. Next up, damn it, who else is supposed to be here? Next up, we have Shoto Todoroki, the number 2 hero's son. While Endeavor kind of sees this as a way to compare his kid to more of them. So he's technically not doing this because he wants to send Shoto here. He'd rather have him not. But Endeavor has decided to basically send Fuyumi and have her take Shoto there. Now then, some of them... Like, how old was Shoto when he got his burn mark again? It was around 5, right? So yeah, some of them are kind of worrying about the burn mark, some of the parents at least. Well, Yumi also introduces herself to everyone, saying her dad couldn't make it this time as he's busy with hero work. Which, I'm gonna say it, he actually is here. Since I feel like Endeavor would actively want to come to something like this, just to compare Shoto up to everyone else. Now then, we go into Shoto Todoroki. For Shoto himself, he hasn't really got any extra power. His quirk is half hot, half cold, along with the fact that basically his chaos power acts more as an enhancement for him than anything else. Shoto is genuinely a lot stronger. His fire is even blue, and his ice is below sub-zero levels of cold that he can control how cold it is. His chaos power is basically more of an enhancement to his quirk and his physical abilities and everything like that. He's faster, stronger than most kids would be his age. But besides that, there's really nothing too nuanced here. I guess that would be the right word. Nuance? Yeah. Alright, next we have Mina. Next we have Ashido Mina. A pink girl with bat-like wings protruding out of her back. Mina's quirk, acid, her chaos power she's been given, is bat-like wings that allow her to fly, along with the fact that she somewhat resembles a bat. Her ears are pointed, but like not bat pointed, but pointed enough to where her ears are pointed, along with the fact that she kind of has an echolocation ability. And for whatever reason, she's really strong. Mina was able to, immediately after getting her chaos enhancement power, Mina was able to kick down an entire wall by accident from just stepping her foot on it a bit too hard. So Mina also has some really impressive strength, super strength gains from this. And next up, Now, next up, we have just two parents. They don't have a child with them. Basically, these are two black-haired people. I don't know Kirishima's parents' name. Basically, they said from the last... Basically, they're coming here for kind of help. The last time they saw their son, his hair was red and he had these sharp-like knuckles. Or at the very least, along with some massive super strength. But then he glowed and disappeared, and they've been worried since. They don't know if he's alive or dead, and they have parents looking for him. Now, and this leads Inko to remember something, a missing poster for a boy named Edro Kirishima. Now then, this leads to wondering where they're going. Now then, this leads to everyone's first interaction. That's letting everyone get a bit closer. Now, I say a few years would pass from about, about 2-ish. So about 10 now. And basically at the support group that the Hero Art Agency is personally funding now, this is when also two pro heroes show up. The two pro heroes on Water Hose, along with the fact that they have a baby in their arms with two twin tails. Basically, they're introducing themselves along with the fact that this is their son Koda, and that from birth they were able to tell he had chaos powers, i.e. the tail, pointed ears, and fangs. Basically, they want, and basically the reason they're bringing him here now instead of when he's older is that they kind of want him to basically grow up in an environment with people like him. Him as people with chaos powers have become sort of an anomaly to a lot of people. Some of them thinking it's unfair how some people were randomly chosen and things like that. So yeah, things like that go on. So basically, that's how they all meet Koda. What is it we call him Tails? Thinking to be kind of a cool nickname for the kid. And now then, things go like that for a few more months till one day while at the kind of little space they would have, I feel like it'd just be a building that would have been rented out. Which during this time Toshinori Yagi has moved in with the Midoriyas. I have to let that quick side note come past. Now then, basically one day while in the facility, Maria drops. Basically while Izuku was trying to show her something, she collapses right there on the floor. With Izuku looking and being somewhat shocked about this. Basically the parents are called immediately, with Maria being drove to the hospital, and thanks to, unfortunately, to Mitsuki's fears, she finds out that today, basically confirming Mitsuki's fears is that Maria has the same disease as her mother. Now then, Gerald comes down from them and says that he's been working on a plan to do this, to possibly save her. But he needs her to come to the space colony Ark for that. Maria sees this, which her quirk is also an explosion quirk similar to the Katsuki's, but now it's really weakened. Now then, Maria understands what's happening, and basically she's asked for a couple of days to say goodbye to all of the kids. And thus, a few days pass of her saying her goodbyes, with also some of the kids feeling really bad seeing her basically sickly like this, connected to an IV. Always happen to have one with her. Now then, and with that, Maria leaves, but before she does, Katsuki wants to go. He doesn't care about school. I mean, he tells his mom he knows his grandpa is smart enough to teach him whatever he misses in school. But he wants to go with his big sister. And while Mitsuki and Marsu don't want to, they decide to let him go. And with that, Katsuki Bakugo also goes into space to the space colony Ark with Maria and Gerald. Now then, let's focus a bit more on Katsuki before we go back down to Earth. A few days pass after getting there, where multiple scientists doing their best. Now then, while this is happening, something breaks free on the Ark, a gizoid, from what Katsuki here Gerald calls it, with Katsuki inviting into a battle with it, using his explosions, along with his power, his super speed, really, along with something that him and Izuku came up with, a spin dash. With him basically rolling to a ball and using his speed to spin around fast enough to basically shoot himself at it. He does this a couple of times, placed with a few quick explosions, bringing the Gizoid down enough for them to recapture it. Now then, during this time, during the fight, Katsuki is knocked through a wall. And he sees something called the Ultimate Life Form Program. And so Katsuki asks his grandfather, what is it? With Gerald explaining that there's a possible way that definitely save Maria. He calls it the Ultimate Life Form. After hearing about this, Katsuki asks if they need a body, someone with chaos energy already. And so, Katsuki offers himself. That sounds wrong. Katsuki asks his grandma to let him become the Ultimate Life Form. Let him save his big sister. And with this, Gerald, who's really, really desperate to save his granddaughter, who he's gone severely close with, decides to do it. he puts Katsuki in a pod and starts working on him. Some of the scientists are questioning his motives, wondering exactly why he would use his own grandson, but now that's not important to him. After a few months of Katsuki being in a stasis pod, unconscious, while being experimented on, he finally, and along with a lot of things going on about his unknown knowledge, he finally wakes up. Katsuki life, with now his hair at the end being black with red strands going into it. He also has multiple markings on his arms, along with one on his back, which basically, if I had to give a description of it, I would say, you know, the Shadow the Hedgehog, basically TM, you know that little circle spike thing that had, that little logo he had on his original game. Basically, that's what's on Katsuki's back. And with that being said, Maria starts to get slightly better, actually. And with this, let's leave the space colony arc, turn back time a little bit, and go back down to the planet Earth. Now then, for Izuku, he's been in a little slump, to say the least. The others see it, everyone sees it, since he's basically lost what Izuku says is his brother and sister base. That's basically how he sees them. His brother and sister are now gone. He doesn't... It basically just leaves Izuku in a funk where Ochako tries her best to get him to smile more. But that doesn't really help. Now then, with this, this also leads to Izuku taking a slight trip. Basically, Toshinori Inko decide it would be nice for him. And so basically they take a trip to where Izuku can have a lot of free space to actually run. And with this being said, Izuku takes off immediately into the desert landscape, basically running his little heart out. Now then, during this, Izuku ends up finding a giant golden ring. Which, I forgot. Basically, golden rings, like the energy rings, have basically appeared around the world already. And yes, people collect them, but I'd say only people with chaos energy would be able to collect them. Basically, they provide an extra power boost. And so, yeah, Izuku sees a giant golden one, and he immediately runs in and wondering what kind of power boost he get from it. But instead, Izuku ends up finding himself falling. Him seeing multiple obstacles, and with him dodging his way through, till he sees something else. Another Chaos Emerald. Not like the green one that he had. Well, he has a blue one. So Izuku jumps down and grabs it, and the moment he does, he's teleported back out. The blue emerald in his hands. Now, when Izuku's seeing this, before he can run back, he also now sees something floating in the sky. Or at least on the ground, or stuff like that. And Izuku makes his way over there, running across the water and making it there. And basically when Izuku gets there, he's almost immediately sneak attacked by someone with red hair, sending him flying back into a wall. And when he looks up his eyes, he sees the missing boy, Ejiro Kirishima. Except now his hair is red, his eyes are purple. And he looks mighty angry. With him asking what's he doing on his island. With Izuku asking him, his name is Kirishima, right? Which the two go off into it, explaining to each other about what this place is. With Kirishima calling it Angel Island. With him explaining that basically he woke up here after a while, and this led to him reading the manuscripts. And he actually takes Izuku to these manuscripts, with Izuku seeing something really, really interesting. He sees a mural, a painting of what looks like him, but not him at the same time. His hair is spiked, his hair is spiked, it's glowing like a bright gold yellow. He has a brilliant aura around himself. And it seems like he's fighting something. And his eyes are also red from what he notices. with Kirishima explaining that he doesn't know what it is. What he does know is that he thinks it might be something important. Now then, with this, he also takes Izuku to the Master Emerald, with him explaining that he somehow knew this thing was called the Master Emerald. And basically, he thinks it's his duty to protect it. For whatever reason, it's like a little knack in his head, telling him that he's the guardian. It's his job. With Zuko asking him, doesn't he want to go back home? I mean, it's not like anyone else besides them knows where this is. And after a little convincing of a few days, he convinces him. And with that, Zuko grabs Kirishima and runs off. Unknown to them, there's a small droid basically watching them. Watching Izuku specifically, but hearing a lot. Ooh. Hiccup. Basically, us hearing a laugh. A very iconic laugh at that. With him basically making sure to save this in the running trick as a backup plan of sorts. As then, the man with a toothy grin, a red kind of jumpsuit and black pants, along with a brown mustache, and a smile on his face, as he puts down blueprints. Metal Sonic. And with that, we cut away from the man and get back to Izuku running with Katsuki. Not Katsuki, Kirishima. Or Ejiro, Kirishima, whatever you want to call him. Basically running back to the resort with Mitsuki and Toshinori being... Inko and Toshi being slightly worried and slightly not, because they know he can handle himself. With them also being surprised he found Kirishima. And so with that, they take him home. Kirishima's reunited with his parents. And things go accordingly. Now then, a little after this, Toshinori sends Inko and Izuku down. As he then explains everything about him. About himself. That he's All Might and even buffs up in front of them. Basically thinking that they should know. Now, Izuku is still freaking out since he's still a huge All Might fanboy. Basically, this brings the family closer together. And this leads to a year passing. A year passing, which ends with Toshinori and Inko getting married. Yay! Now then, up on a colony arc, something, as we know, something horrible goes down. In Katsuki, basically pounding on the glass. Now then, Katsuki memories are fuzzy. He hears pounding, but then he wakes up in a weird, strange place as someone comes up to him. Basically, she explains to him that she's a part of an organization called Gun that formed after the Chaos incident. Now then, this leads to them taking Katsuki home. He still doesn't know what's going on. He wonders where his sister is. But, this is when he's brought home to Mitsuki and Marsu, who are wondering who these people are, wondering where her daughter is. And this leads to them breaking news that basically Gerald became more of a threat than was needed, and he had to be taken in, along with the fact that Maria had died from her illness. This devastates the family, including Katsuki, he doesn't remember what happened these last few months. He does remember he's the ultimate life form. With them also telling that that's what Katsuki is now, and that's why they stopped Gerald from turning his grandson into this. And now then, a few days later, a funeral was held. After everyone has explained what happened, the funeral for Maria is held. And at front and center, while Mitsuki is just crying in her husband's arms over the loss of her daughter, Katsuki and Izuku are both looking at her casket. Before they even close it, since they still get to see her face, they're just looking at her. A blank expression on their faces as she's lowered into the ground. and then her casket closed and the dirt put over. Even after everyone leaves, they're still there, still looking, still out of it. Now then, this leads to Ashiro and Ochako coming up to the two and basically just giving them a hug. They know they love Maria, and hell, everyone from the group loved Maria. And so they all probably know just how devastating Izuku and Katsuki are. And with that, this ends. A year passes. Now then, Koda has also grown bigger, and unfortunately, his parents were unfortunately killed by Muscular. Now then, this also leads to everyone having to go to another funeral where Inko meets everyone, the Pixie Bob and them, with also little Koda proceeding to run to Izuku and crying in his arms. Since Izuku and Koda are also obviously closer over these years, with Izuku calling Koda his little buddy most of the time. This is just another tragedy that happened. Now then, Mendeley knows that Koda would probably rather stay with Inko and Izuku and Toshi than them. And so basically, they make a plan with Inko. Basically, they switch having Koda every few months. Basically, let him spend time with both of them, and also just to make sure he's okay. Inko's kind of willing to do this since during this time she became close friends with both of his parents, and now they're gone. And with that, Koda becomes a part of the Midoriya family, and still with Pixie Bob and Mendeley. Now then, one night, while Izuku is just in the mirror looking, his hair is going a little longer and a lot spikier in the back, with him tying it up. Basically, he kind of gets the iconic Sonic look with his spiked up tied hair. Now then, the moment he takes his eyes off and then looks back up again, he sees Maria standing in the mirror, looking at him. This leads to him taking a quick step back, and his hand gripping the door, and him looking at it, her just staring him down. With Izuku then proceeding to hear something. It's a soft ting noise. He can't help but put his hands in his hair. His hands in his hair over his ears as he tries to block this out. Basically, until he feels something touches him. When he looks up to see Maria looking at him, grabbing him by the face. Basically, this sends Izuku into full panic mode, but then he hears a knock on the door. It's Inko telling him that Ochako is here. And when he looks back again, Maria's gone. Now Izuku gets up, wipes his eyes, splashes some water on his face, and when Inko asks him if he's alright, he looks like he'd seen a ghost. He tells her he's fine, then goes out to meet with Ochako, and basically just gives her a quick hug. She doesn't know what's wrong, but she just gives him a hug because it's obvious he needs it. After this, they just go on and have their little day. Just them. And with that being said, things go on. Now then, all of the Chaos students, all of the Chaos heads have all started going to the same school. Yes, they've all met Endeavor by this point too. And I say, because of actually having Izuku around him a lot, I feel like Shoto will use his fire a little more. And basically, I want to say Endeavor starts being a little less shitty here. Basically, he's still a hard ass, but basically seeing all the families, I feel like he get a little sentimental. He's still a hard ass and, well, kind of a piece of shit, obviously, but I'll say this also leads to him starting to visit Ray more in the hospital. Basically, it's more or less how it was kind of in canon now. Him stopping by every now and then, leaving her her favorite flower. he's starting to be a bit more of a good person now. Now then, Shoto hasn't made full peace yet with him, and Shoto's on the way of something that he remembers Suzuku told him, as I feel like he would explain to some of the more closer ones he was with of the group, basically explaining to them what's happening. And so I feel like they would be told more about this. And basically, Izuku is giving him, you can forgive, but you can't forget. And he's on that path with his father now. A lot more sooner than in canon. Along with the fact, basically, he's a lot more ready on the path of, you can forgive, but you won't forget. You will never forget. And he makes sure that Endeavor knows that. He stands up. Basically, things are a bit more healthier for the Todoroki family in this universe now. And with that being said, Izuku is still haunted by Maria. He still sees her there, still that ringing. He doesn't tell anyone about this. Basically, his own... even though unbeknownst to Izuku, this is basically his own grief manifesting into full form. And this also leads to Izuku being a little bit more iffy about things. But now then, we get to that fateful day in junior high, since most of the Chaos kids, or the Chaos Gang, whatever the hell you want to call them, Team Chaos, whatever, they're all in the same class here. All of the parents decided, let them go to the same school. So basically, all of them... So I'd say that a majority of the class is different here, and the other half is just in one of the other classes from the... So yeah, basically, who wants to be a hero? So all of that. Oh, I have to also mention, Katsuki has become a little bit more colder. He's not as rambunctious or loud as he was. Just the cold. Now then, Mina tries her best to get him to open up more like he was before he left. But that has varying effects. Now then, we have things going on similar to canon here. I mean, Katsuki isn't a dick that tells Suzuku to off himself, which I'm just gonna let you all know right now. That didn't happen in my Omni Deku What If, and it's not gonna happen in any of them unless it's a villain Izuku one. Since I don't care what anyone says. That is basically unforgivable, and I don't think canon Izuku and Katsuki should be close buddy like that because of what he said. And I also don't think the bullying should have been that bad, since Horikoshi himself, I'm pretty sure he confirmed that he kind of regret having the bullying be that bad. Or having Katsuki say that. That doesn't happen here. Katsuki isn't a douchebag. He's more so just quiet and sad his sister's dead. So, yeah. With that, Izuku decides to head home by himself, just deciding he needs a walk. Ironic for someone like him. Now then, during this time, the sludge villain ends up trying his pockets, but, that doesn't go well at all. And so the sludge villain is quickly defeated with All Might coming up behind him, with Izuku seeing his father, and telling him he's a little too slow. With Toshinori just giving his boy a smile, as Izuku just decides to go with him to the police station. Basically, just a little jog with father and son. Now then, after this, Toshi decides to set Inko and Izuku down again, along with Koda, who's here. And basically, he starts explaining about his power, one for all. And he explains to Izuku that he couldn't find anyone more fitting of his power than his own son. And so this leads to a question: does Izuku take it or not? Which, yes, he does. So Izuku takes the power, and this leads to him and All Might spinning up those 10. Because it either leads to them having 10 months of just training or cleaning up the beach, which Yeah, I say just cleaning up the beach, which it gets done months faster. So this leads to training actually being able to happen. Izuku still is kind of weak for one for all and breaks a few bones every now and again. But, they can just always run over to Recovery Girl. So, yeah, they can always just run over to the Recovery Girl, things like that. And I'm trying to think about it. What is it? Okay, yeah. Zuko's one for all percentage. Now then, I wouldn't say that Zuko would kind of still get it, since for how smart he is, he's still kind of dense. So I would say that Zuko would use one for all throughout body percentages still, but actually having a lot more control. I say he can use about 12%, 12, 13 without breaking anything, with 15 through 20 being him severely straining himself and even ripping muscle fibers, but no breaking. So yeah, he sits like a solid 13 with percentage, with him just using it for air flicks like his dear old man, and also boosting his skills. Now then, Izuku and Katsuki has also developed their super speed a lot, along with Katsuki now developing more chaos powers, i.e. chaos control, things like that, chaos spear, while Izuku has also developed the boost. He can boost now, same with Katsuki, along with the spin dash, a good chunk of the moves from Sonic Frontier. I feel like a good chunk of the moves from Sonic Frontier is what they have now, along with the homing attack and also, again, boost. And thus, we get to the UA entrance exams. It's kind of no competition. The boys win, go through it very quickly with all of the Chaos students making it first place or stuff like that. Izuku's number 1, Katsuki is right behind him, along with Kirishima, who's also going through his own physical change, with him now having support gear of metal spiked Knuckles. Basically, a metal version of Knuckles is Knuckles. And along with the fact that Kirishima does kind of have a temper on him. And with that being said, Izuku is told by All Might that he's in. And now then, we end this part off with Izuku, getting ready for his first day of UA. Him looking himself in the mirror and then walking out. With Maria, or whatever it is, looking at him as he walks away before disappearing from the mirror. And with that being said, this has been the end of the first part, Origins, which, yeah, that's the name. Now then, March 13.